What we want to do is clean these bezels thoroughly using a little bit of rubbing alcohol. So it's removing any of oils or fingerprints or whatever that might be on the bezels. So to do so, just get a little bit of rubbing alcohol onto your piece and just rub it around. When I am working with the clay in particular, sometimes I pull it in and out of the bezel, and therefore the clay can easily discolor as a result of getting in contact with this oxidization. Now, it absorbs into the metal, and that's why we put it on here, but the stuff is still on the surface. If you don't want it to get into your clay, you just take a moment to clean the different bezels. Then you can go back in and clean with a wet wipe. So I'm mostly just, if that's plenty good, I'm mostly just wanting to make sure that it's off of this lip and it's off of this inside core area. And after a good dousing like that, if there's still little bits in there, that's going to be covered up, and it's more than likely not going to come off very easily. So those are easy and good to go. To make a silicone mold, you'll need this EasyMold Silicone Putty. It comes in a part A and part B. You'll open up these and pinch off equal size balls of the putty for you to make your mold with. You'll also need to have some sort of either a charm. I'm going to be using this charm from the Nunn Design line, or you can use a vintage button or any kind of found object such as a fossil or things that you've made. Before I mix up the putty, I'm going to get this prepared. I'm going to trim off this little extra loop right down here using a pair of flush cutters, and then I'll be able to sink this easily into the mold. So to remove that, and I actually want to keep it a nice sharp point, so I'll come in and first remove it this way, this little loop, and then remove it over here so I can still have a nice point here. Other things that I'm going to need to do is take a little bit of olive oil or baby oil. I just have a little bit in a dish, and I just put some onto Q-tip, and I'm going to just smear it around onto the item that I'm going to be embedding into the putty, just to make sure that it can easily release. Let's first make our silicone mold. And I like to lay a piece of plastic down onto my work surface so this doesn't stick onto the paper. And now that I'm all ready, I am going to start mixing the putty as quickly as I can. I have found that I like to use the tips of my fingers like this because I have tried all kinds of different techniques of rolling it in my palms, doing whatnot, and I find that kneading it with the fingertips is the best way to move quickly and to blend these two parts together. When you're not seeing any mottling showing up, so no streaks of white coming through, go ahead and roll the putty into a ball. Navigating just the right amount of putty is going to take some time to figure out like how much to use, so you might have a bigger patty than you need. And then place that crease. I'm looking for any area that doesn't have a lot of creases right on that surface area. And now I'm going to press down using this little bowl until I have still a fairly thick patty. See how thick that still is? And then I peel that off. You can either flip that over and use this side, depending on whatever looks like it's going to be the smoothest. Go back. All right, so now that I have my putty patty, say that 10 times fast, you press the item that you want to have the impression down into the mold until it's down in there. You're not going to want to go all the way down and bottom out to the bottom. You just want to go far enough down. And now we'll let this set up for about 20 minutes until it is hard. Crystal clay is a 2-part epoxy clay that air dries. you have a 90 to 120 minutes to work with this before it sets up and is firm like cement. You can embed in it, you can sculpt in it, you can do all kinds of fun things. When you open up the kit, this is the 50 gram pack. You'll take out the different parts, and you'll find 50 grams of the clay. I'm working with the black, so it has the part A and the part B, and it also comes with a pair of gloves. You want to wear your gloves when it is in the two parts. This hardener is the resin epoxy, and it's a good idea to be wearing gloves when you're working with this when it's in the raw form. Once it's been activated, the two parts have mixed. It is now neutral, and you can take off your gloves. But for this first step, we're going to go ahead and put the gloves on. I like to put a little bit of baby powder on my hands prior to putting them in the gloves. It keeps my hands nice and dry, and so it's easier for me to get the gloves on and off. Once you have your gloves on, I also like to lay down a piece of plastic on my work surface so I can put the clay on so it doesn't stick to my paper. You want to open up part A and part B and pinch off a ball size to work with. Once you have your part A and part B and you have equal size balls, or pretty darn close to being equal size, you'll want to mix the two parts together until they're fully blended. So these gloves are very large for my hand, and I typically use a latex glove that is more my size. But these are the ones that are in the package, and they are very handy to have on the ready. Use a wet wipe to wipe down your gloves after you have blended the two parts together. This will help you reuse your gloves over and over again between projects. And to remove them, just pull on the fingertips, and the gloves will usually slide off and not be inside out, so it makes it easy to reuse these again and again. I use a wet wipe to wipe down my hands to remove any of the baby powder that might be on my hands from the gloves. Now my clay is blended together and it's activated, and I can go ahead and use it on my next project. When you're finished with the crystal clay, you can go ahead and close up the package and seal it as tight as you can, removing any of the excess air. I like to seal up and keep in a separate bag. So I keep the A inside here, and then the B is completely in its own bag. So there's not any risk whatsoever of these two getting activated. So I'm going to put the two in, pull out any excess air, and seal it up. Alright, I have a crystal clay. I'm going to go ahead and roll it into a nice smooth ball. I'm going to go ahead and place it down into the base of the bezel. And this one I want to have a nice high dome. Next I'm going to put a little bit of the Gilding Flakes onto the crystal clay. Toothpick. Just lay it right onto the wet crystal clay. And this can be just completely random. You can have a full coverage or a partial coverage or whatnot. well, that's gonna be covered. Wow! I don't recommend doing that. Alright, so we've got quite a coverage now. That was one way, a full submersion. Hallelujah. Okay, let's go ahead and put that over there. Close these up. You need a full wipe down after that. Now that you have your crystal clay onto the epoxy, we're going to make an impression using the mold. Zoom in here so you can see this. Just place this down right into the mold and press firmly, but not so firm that it squeezes out the sides, or at least not too much. So I'm pressing down with my thumbs, and I'm also pressing down with these fingers on this side to give it a nice impression. Pretty cool, huh? Then you can go in on these side edges and just slightly clean it up. Just smooth off these edges here and clean anywhere that you don't want the foil to be. And then I'll show you the next step once that cures. Once you clean this up, you can leave this the way it is, but I had some leftover resin from doing this tutorial, so I just placed it over the bezel, and it gave it that look. So you can leave it this way, or you can add a little bit of the resin over it. Super fun!